everybody. It's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, January 13th, 2019. Victoria and Phyllis came to blows this week, both physically and emotionally. And right off the top, I want to know who you are rooting for. Are you team Phyllis in all of this, or are you team Victoria? YRChat.com. That is our website. That is our poll for the week. And I want to get your opinions very badly on this because the opinion I am about to give you is very biased. I felt so angry toward Phyllis this week. I am angry at her right now. In this entire whirlwind of garbage that has surrounded JT's death, Y&R this week presented us with a reminder that the man was someone's father. JT was Reed's father. And the fact that Reed's father will always be remembered by the worst thing he ever did completely overshadows all of the good parts about him and also overshadows this wonderful son that JT somehow was able to contribute to raising. Reed never had a chance to say goodbye to his father, and a boy's father is such an important role model to him. I mean, yes, that relationship was complicated, as was JT, but that's an important relationship that Reed has never had a chance to resolve. So he comes up with the idea on his own, so sweetly, so innocently, so unknowingly, of arranging a memorial service for his father to pay tribute to the things about JT that weren't awful, and also to give himself a little bit of closure. That was a very mature idea. And it's a very complicated idea for Victoria. This idea is one that required her to put aside her own feelings. She put aside the fact that she was abused by this man in order to give her son what he needed. Reed needed this, and so Victoria agreed. And now she's got all these people invited to her house, the house where the abuse took place, for this memorial service. A lot of different people were invited, but Victoria specifically went to Nick and Phyllis's house to invite them, to talk to them about coming, asking them if they would be there. And Victoria arrived at Nick and Phyllis's place just after they had had a conversation where Nick revealed to Phyllis that he's starting to question whether or not Victor is guilty of JT's murder. And Phyllis encourages Nick not to pursue it. Now, of course, this is because Phyllis is trying to protect the truth about who really killed JT. And so now in this moment, Victoria is arriving, and she is stepping in on what was a little bit of a tense conversation with them. Victoria doesn't know it though, and she is carrying all of the burden of what her son has asked her to do, but also all of the burden of knowing that her father is in jail right now for a crime that her mother committed. And Phyllis had absolutely no empathy for that whatsoever. Phyllis is clearly and completely team anti-Victor. And I'm not saying that she doesn't have reasons. 100%. She has valid reasons, if anybody has reasons to hate Victor. But she just seemed so unnecessarily cruel. Not only in that instance, but throughout the week. As soon as Nick leaves the room and Victoria and Phyllis have a chance to have a private moment alone together, Victoria asks her, hey, why are you trying to convince Nick that my father is guilty when you know that he's not? And Phyllis readily admits that the reason she's doing it is because she wants Victor to get convicted. She wants Victor to suffer. She wants revenge on him. And again, I'm not saying that she doesn't have a right to that. Phyllis has no ability to pull herself back, though, and realize that Victoria and Victor are not one in the same. Phyllis tells Victoria that she and Nikki just have blinders on when it comes to Victor. And they do, I'll give you that point. But then Phyllis also goes on to talk to Victoria about how Victor is as bad as JT. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm sure that it's all coming from Phyllis's place of knowing what Victor did to her in the Marco situation. That's where all of that hostility between Victor and Phyllis comes from. And again, I don't think that she is wrong to feel that way, but why lash out at Victoria? Why be so insulting toward Victoria? Phyllis just launches into this tirade about how Victoria has daddy issues. Please, do you think that Victoria is not aware of her own daddy issues? You can see it from a mile away. She knows this about herself, but that's still her father. I mean, we're talking in context of fathers and how that relationship can be complicated, but you still love them. That's what Reed is going through. Why is it so hard, Phyllis, to take the leap to understand that that's what Victoria is going through? So Victoria fires back at Phyllis after saying all of this with a hot, stinging slap across the face. Victoria did not hold back. She just wound up and whacked Phyllis right in the face. I didn't feel at all surprised that Victoria would behave that way. I felt way more surprised that Phyllis didn't hit back. Until she did hit back. Phyllis hit back in the most public and private of ways. On the day of JT's memorial service at Victoria's house, there are chairs arranged in front of a big portrait of JT on an easel, as is the custom. I swear, if at my funeral there is not a big portrait of me on an easel, I will be offended. I will haunt you from beyond my grave. I will at least have deserved a big portrait of myself on an easel next to my casket, okay? Or at least at my memorial service. Oh, gotta love that. Was anybody else waiting for through the entire memorial service for JT to show up to his own memorial service? That would have been great. I kept expecting it to happen every single moment. I was waiting for him to come through the door. It didn't happen, but man, that would have been a powerful reveal. Instead, all of the guests are gathered there. Mac is there. She was JT's ex-wife. She's the mother of his other children. Tracy was there, being so sweet to Reed, saying the things that this kid really needed to hear. Tracy just knows what someone needs to hear instinctively. And she was telling him that she sees in Reed all of the good qualities that JT had. Yes, there were good qualities. You can't boil someone's essence down to one thing or one behavior or even a year's worth of behaviors. Tracy was reaffirming to Reed that his dad wasn't all bad and that those good parts still live on in Reed. I love her. I love that woman. Reed also had Maddie and Charlie there as his friends for support. Cain was there uncomfortably. Nick and Phyllis were there uncomfortably. And Nikki was there uncomfortably, looking in Reed's face, mourning the loss of his father when Nikki knows that she's the one who caused it. Reed is standing in front of the crowd, in front of his father's portrait, pouring his heart out, talking about all of the positive memories that he has of his dad, and out of the mouth of babes, just sweetly and innocently commenting about how, you know, I would hate it if I was being remembered only for the worst thing that I ever did. This kid and the actor, that was so just heartbreaking, those scenes. He breaks down into tears talking about his father, and at that moment Nikki stands up, declares to the crowd that she has something to say, and then Phyllis jumps in, hijacks the service, and tells everyone to stop acting like JT was a saint, because he wasn't a saint. He emotionally and physically abused Victoria. I was appalled. Absolutely appalled. I understand that this was Phyllis's desperate attempt to keep Nikki from telling a secret that would ruin all of their lives, but was this the only idea that she could come up with? She destroyed any last remaining shreds of positive memories that a son had for his father. Reed picked up the portrait of JT upon learning this information, smashes it onto the ground, and runs away. He's devastated to learn this, and he didn't have to learn it. Not only did Phyllis do this to Reed, though, but she also, in front of everyone, revealed Victoria's innermost private pain, which, by the way, was a secret that was entrusted to Phyllis. The only reason Phyllis knew about that was because she was at Margarita Night, and Victoria opened up to the group about it, looking for support, not to have someone turn around and throw it in her face later. Phyllis publicly revealed the information about Victoria's abuse to a group of people who Victoria chose not to give that information to. It was a violation. And just because Phyllis felt violated by Victor's actions doesn't give her a right to turn around and do the same thing emotionally to Victoria. It was not Phyllis's place to speak to anyone about what happened in Victoria's marriage or anybody else's marriage. And it came off to me as being completely revenge motivated because of that slap. I can't wait to see your comments, because I need someone to give me some kind of alternate perspective here. Because I was mad at Phyllis, and I'm also mad at Nick for not being more mad at her. Nick went way easy on her. He approached her, he tried to save it. He tried to gather Phyllis up and sort of say to the crowd, sorry about my girlfriend, let's just move on. And then talked to her later and demanded an explanation, of course, as to why she would do something so vicious and ruin a family memorial service and humiliate his sister and his nephew. But Nick Phyllis about it in the most passive of ways. What he said to her was on the level of being mad at her for not replacing the toilet paper roll. It should have been more. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the drama. As always, I like the drama, but I can be a little mad at Phyllis. I was glad that it gave Victoria the opportunity to address again what she had been through, to choose not to be ashamed about it. I mean, I think the good part about it was the fact that it brought Victoria's story full circle. She was able to talk to the crowd and embrace it in a way and tell people about her learning process having gone through this. The fact that she had to learn the hard way that domestic abuse can happen in even the most idyllic of homes to the most competent of people. That was always the point of that storyline, always. And Mackenzie came in and she was able to reaffirm that. Reed had a chance to ask his follow-up questions, and now he has to deal with coming to terms to that side of his father. I don't know. The sticking point for me is Reed. Reed never should have been put in that position by Phyllis. I'm sorry, in some instances, there are truths that are better left unsaid. Unless, I guess, those truths show up on your hearth. Early in the week, Nikki checked herself out of the hospital hotel. Oh, busboy, fetch me my bags, and cab driver, first stop, Genoa City Jail. She immediately goes to visit Victor in jail, and she is getting ready to tell Victor everything. She tells him, in front of a sign, by the way, that says, all conversations will be monitored. She tells Victor she knows who killed JT, and Victor stops her. Tells her that she must never speak that sentence, never finish that sentence, because protecting her is the most important thing. So, I guess that means that Victor already knows about everything that happened. That means that he already knows Nikki killed JT. Does that mean that Victor moved the body? How much of this was Victor behind if he already knew about it? I mean, honestly, staying in jail and taking the rap for this is probably a pretty good plan if he does know about it and he is trying to deflect attention away from Nikki by taking the rap for it, because Victor surely knows at this point that the charges against him are flimsy at best. Chances are he'd probably never get convicted. The good thing about having a prison parade, though, is the fact that it gives old rivals a chance to go at it again. Jack decided to pay a little visit to his favorite nemesis just to see him squirm and to gloat. I enjoyed those scenes so much. Just even the way Jack was holding himself. So, he sort of picks at his finger while he's, he just sort of casually looking at his fingernails while he's talking to Victor, as if, he doesn't have a care in the world. He doesn't even have a hangnail, and yet here Victor sits in jail. I loved it. Jack prefaced the whole thing on saying, well, I could always take care of things while you're indisposed. I'll look after the family. I could look after the business. And Victor's like, I don't need any help from you. It was great. It was just fun. Victor and Jack don't have nearly enough scenes together lately. That's a rivalry that just kind of never gets old. I really enjoyed that. But the most important thing to me as a takeaway from that scene was that even Victor's biggest rival seems to come around to the idea that Victor may not have done this. that someone is setting him up. I mean, it's so clear to absolutely everyone. Why would Victor burn down his own stables just to attract attention to a gun, a murder weapon, and a bloody shirt that mysteriously survived the fire? It makes no sense. From the beginning, it makes no sense. But as Jack said, Jack knows that's not going to stop the police. It doesn't matter whether it makes sense. It's not going to stop the police from pursuing it, apparently. After JT's memorial service, Nick drives Nikki home, and we got to see a brand new sitting room at the ranch. I mean, it's a whole new room. I should have known immediately. I was shocked. I was like thrown off. I was like, where is this? Because are we at Nick's house? But it looks like the ranch. I should have known immediately that some sort of drama was about to unfold. We don't just get a new set for nothing. I thought it was beautiful, though. I mean, there was photos of horses everywhere, and photos of the family, some more photos of horses. That's what tipped me off to it being at the ranch, all the horses. And of course we had that big chandelier, and there was also an arch that had a stained glass archway on top of it with a big letter N. It looked grand, and yet it also looked cozy. There was lots of pillows and a snuggy, warm, furry blanket for cozying up by the fireplace. The fireplace was the centerpiece of this room, and really, after a long day at JT's memorial and the drama that went down there, all Nikki wants to do is grab that cozy fur blanket, warm up by the fire. When she looks down at the hearth and sees not just any fireplace poker, but the fireplace poker that she used to whack JT Hellstrom over the head all of those months ago. Nikki is so spooked, so terrified when she sees the fireplace poker that she howls out. Nick races in to find out what's going on, and Nikki tells him, "Don't touch it! Don't touch it! Because it's a murder weapon! JT's murder weapon. She knows because she murdered JT." So now Nick knows, and Victor seems to know too. And in addition to the gun and the bloody shirt and JT's burial clothes, we now also have the fireplace poker. Now, I'm not saying that she is the one who's behind it, but I do seem to remember that Phyllis specifically was in charge of getting rid of that fireplace poker. She was supposed to dispose of the poker and JT's cell phone. JT's cell phone showed right back up, but the poker went missing until now. I think I'm right on that. I think Nikki and Victoria took care of burning the rug at some ranch incinerator, but Phyllis was the one who was supposed to take care of the fireplace poker. And I'd also like to note again here, just to underscore my frustration with Phyllis, but this entire harebrained idea to just not report what was clearly a self-defense incident to the police in the first place was Phyllis's idea. It was all Phyllis. Phyllis was the one who made everyone paranoid that they were all going to get locked away for what happened. And she pressured everyone to go along with this whole plan to dispose of JT's body. They wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for Phyllis. I'm sorry, but it's just how I feel. Now, Phyllis has already said that she wants revenge on Victor. And Phyllis has had the fireplace poker. And Phyllis did kind of conveniently distance herself from the Margarita crew at around the same time that JT's body was moved, or that they dug up the grave. But in Phyllis's defense, what motive would she possibly have for doing all of this? Phyllis's motive should be to continue to keep the secret, and we saw that reflected in her behavior at JT's memorial. So who else in town could it be? I mean, Rey was out of town. I can't quite see Christine sneaking into the ranch to plant the poker. Nobody seems to want to buy my theory, probably because it's based on nothing, that JT is still alive. So tell me who you think it is. Who else could it be? I mean, I can think of a million people offhand who would want to frame Victor Newman for murder. But I can't think of anyone who would specifically want to taunt and haunt Nikki. I mean, first with the rotten grave clothes in her bed, and now with the fireplace poker. The only person who I can think who might want to haunt and taunt Nikki would be the person who she whacked over the head with that fireplace poker. Maddie and Charlie asked Cain to attend JT's memorial service. They want to be there to support their friend. Cain knew JT, and the twins felt that this was something that they should do as a family. But obviously, Cain doesn't want to go. He has his reasons. And one of the reasons is also because he just got done receiving and reading a very contemplative, very sad, and almost kind of philosophical letter from Lily. Lily was recounting to Cain the details of what her life is like now and the mind frame that she must maintain in order to maintain her sanity where she is. And Lily also acknowledged freely that their relationship is strained right now. It was really interesting the way that scene was filmed, because we saw scenes of Lily inside her cell, confined and pacing and tossing around the room and writing the letter physically. And then we also saw her in parts addressing the camera as if she were talking to us, the audience, but she's talking to Cain. And we also saw scenes of Cain reading the letter with Lily's voice over the scene. It was just a little bit unique. It was a unique approach, I think, to what could have just been a basic sequence. I thought it was at least a little bit creative. It didn't resolve anything. It didn't make anyone probably feel better. It was really just more of a status quo, I guess, of their relationship. But it was obviously very difficult for Cain. He was pacing as much around the kitchen trying to get the courage to read it as much as Lily was pacing around her cell to write it. So the last thing that Cain wants to do right now is spend any time with the woman he just had this illicit kiss with, Victoria. But Cain was also in a position of feeling like a week or two ago he was not being very aware of what was going on in his kids' lives. So he wants to go to the memorial to support his kids, and he even got a really good quip in when he showed up there. Victoria's like, "Why are you here?" And he said something about how he didn't really want to be here anyway. He doesn't want to be in the same room as Victoria. He's afraid that she's gonna try to kiss him again. Sure, Cain is scared to be in the room with Victoria because he doesn't want her to haul off and kiss him again. Like it's a drive-by kissing. It was a stealth bomb kiss. It kind of was. It was a funny little line. I do think those two would have some chemistry, no doubt about it. There's just so much else going on with them both. And when Cain heard Victoria talking candidly to the group about the domestic abuse that she had been through, Cain realized in that moment that there's a lot he didn't know about JT. And I think he's also realizing that there's a lot he didn't know about Victoria. And I did want to give him props for talking to her about it and doing the right thing and acknowledging what she'd been through and trying to extend that olive branch a little bit. I don't know how that's going to parlay itself into any future interactions between them. I asked you guys last week in our poll question, Cain and Victoria, is it hot or is it horribly wrong? Majority vote said it is horribly wrong, 63%. But you know what? 38%. There's nothing to sneeze at, and in terms of thinking that Cain and Victoria could have some hotness together. Oh, I tell ya, I feel like I have to still say it's just still not right. Maybe it's not wrong, but it is wrong. It is wrong, and it's also certainly not right. To me, here, the fact that Cain's married is its whole own thing, and Y&R has some cleanup to do with Cain and Lily's relationship. I wish that they wouldn't have done it at all, but on Victoria's end, I think just because I'm very tuned into her this week, because I was personally affected by it, I just felt personally affected by the domestic abuse storyline, and hearing Victoria again recount the details of everything that she went through with JT, it just makes me want to see her stay single for a while. I need her to heal and just focus on getting herself back and becoming 100% badass. That's what I want for Victoria, not a new relationship. I mean, I don't mind that Billy is there helping her out, because I think it also helps to redeem his character for some of the really bad decisions that he's made recently. But I feel kind of generally uninterested in the idea of a Billy and Victoria reunion. I don't know. It just doesn't seem all that appealing to me right now. Most certainly, though, Phyllis and Mac were both separately very interested in Billy and Victoria's apparent reunion. Both Mac and Phyllis were eyeballing them for different reasons and noting how close Billy and Victoria had become. Phyllis even confronted Billy about how quickly he was moving on with Victoria. You know what? You're right, Phyllis, but you're also with Nick. You need to forget about Billy. He slept with your daughter. Move on. There's nothing more to say. It's over. And it can never be again. Sorry. It's awful. I liked Billy and Phyllis together, but he slept with her daughter. It's over. End of story. I don't know. There are so many things I do like about Phyllis, but this week I'm not tuned into that. I honestly kind of wish that someone would just lure Phyllis onto Jabot and then close the door behind her and send her on a cruise around the world for a few months. Lola does have some growing up to do. I think that insecurity just kind of comes with the territory of being young. And doesn't it just figure when you're at your most young and most beautiful, you lack experience and confidence. And then just when you start to get those things figured out, bam, gray hair. Lola arranges a taste testing this week, and she asks Kyle and Rey and Mia to attend. She's going to cook them some dishes that she's intending to present to Devon and Abby for the new menu of the new restaurant that they're opening, where she's going to be the head chef. And she asks Kyle, Rey, Mia to give her honest feedback about her dishes. And then Lola can't handle the honest feedback that she gets from them. They tried to give her constructive criticism, and she just had this bratty little fit, clears away the dishes, and storms off, leaving Kyle to clean up the mess, the real mess of her emotions. That right there, I'm sorry, should be proof positive to Rey and Arturo and anyone else that Kyle is well good enough for their sister, for Lola. Kyle was able to restore Lola's confidence and convince her to give it another try, and the second try was much more successful. But not every guy would handle all of this drama as well as Kyle has. I mean, all of this drama and no sex? Seriously, Rey and Arturo should be convincing these two to get married. Maybe mostly so that Kyle can start dealing with their little sister's tantrums instead of them. The day of Lola's big taste testing for Devon and Abby, everything went off without a hitch. And Lola was much more receptive to any kind of feedback. They loved her dishes, but they listened to the things that she wanted to present as an explanation for why she had chosen them. They gave her feedback, and it was mostly positive, and she took their feedback well. She also took their contract and a big old fat check. I'm so happy for her in that way. I mean, I love this part of the story. I am pro Lola fighting fiercely for her career. She cares about her business. That shows, and I like that in a person. Things are working out for her in her career, and I mean, I do definitely respect that. Her love life, I mean, I think it needs a little work, but I don't think she thinks it needs a little work. I think everything is coming up Lola in terms of the relationship. She has Kyle at her beck and call. He's basically the best, most supportive boyfriend ever. He is congratulating her on her success with the taste testing, and then they share a very first "I love you." That's such an important moment in a relationship. You only get it once, and it's very exciting. And I'm sure that this is the first time that Lola has ever said it. I felt her excitement and her joy for the fact that her life is going the way that she's planned, that her hard work is paying off. And she wanted to also arrange a special date for Kyle. He's done a lot of things for her, and she wanted to surprise him with a special date. Mia helped her get ready, helped her do her makeup. She looked beautiful, no doubt about it. But did anyone else get a sense of concern out of Kyle when Lola was dancing with him and she made a comment about how happy she was that he was also content to know that sex isn't going to happen until it's right? She was essentially saying, we had this really great date, and I know a lot of guys would expect that it would end with a really great night, and I'm really glad that we're on the same page about the fact that that's not happening. Maybe it was just me reading too much into it, but the look on Kyle's face said, Lola, I love you so much. I really do. But the waiting and the constant reassuring and the constant begging for forgiveness, all of that, although I love you, I do, it is going to start wearing on me eventually. First, Arturo repairs Mia's furnace, and then Arturo and Mia repair their friendship. So glad that they got that furnace fixed. I don't think they needed to fix the furnace. Things were plenty hot in that apartment, all on their own. You know, it was a funny scene at first. The heater goes out in Mia and Rey's apartment. Sharon has conveniently asked Arturo to stop by to fix the furnace. And Mia and Arturo have a very complicated history. They didn't really want to be in the same room together. Mia was a little bit put off by the fact that Arturo would even be the one to need to fix this, and Arturo wasn't looking to complicate his life. But then, as the situation got a little more complicated, they warmed up to each other. Things did get a little more lighthearted. It was fun that they had a few trips down memory lane. It was cozy, it was comfortable, but as the temperature got colder, things between them got hotter. And it really seemed to me, even before anything about Rey and where he was came up, it really seemed to me that Mia was pushing hard for something more to happen. She was baiting Arturo. She was snuggling up under this huge comforter, telling Arturo to come get underneath the covers with her. I mean, you know, you have to share body heat in this type of situation to survive. Hey, guys, here's an idea. Why don't you just go downstairs to the coffee house, hang out, have a hot cup of coffee while you wait for that part to arrive? Oh no, oh no. Oh no, because they would not then have had the opportunity to almost kiss many times. I mean, really, many times, but one big time. I mean, it was like Mia was desperately trying to create an excuse to be with him, and Arturo seemed compelled completely beyond his better judgment to go along with it. I thought that he was entirely into Abby, so how could he even let himself be drawn in by Mia's advances several hundred miles away? Sharon and Rey just finished working on a case in Kenosha. A case in Kenosha. Lugubrious, lugubrious. A case in Kenosha. Oh, but as they're driving back from this very satisfying bust, Rey hits a patch of black ice. He damages the car. They have to stay overnight in Kenosha, and wouldn't you know it, there is only one room in this entire town that's available for a hotel, and it has a single bed. I mean, can you believe the luck? Now, see, I felt that Sharon and Rey's situation was a little bit more charming because it felt somewhat innocent. These are two people who are attracted to each other, no doubt, but they were making an attempt to keep it legit. Rey tried to sleep in the chair and let Sharon have the bed. He wouldn't even look at her when she innocently took off her dress in front of him, and she didn't, you know, he also didn't want her to see him innocently unbuttoning his shirt to get ready for bed. I mean, you can't just sleep in your clothes. Oh, you know, I know that they're attracted to each other, but the vibe did kind of have this whole, like, first boy-girl sleepover pillow fight thing going on. And even when Rey did eventually move to the bed because he was so uncomfortable in the chair, they slept on separate sides, back to back, no hanky-panky. But when Rey and Mia talked on the phone, Rey felt that it was better to not tell Mia that he happened to be staying overnight with Sharon in his room. Probably better to just leave that out. And Mia, at the same time, felt it was better not to mention the Arturo part of her equation, that he was there with her, keeping warm. When Arturo called Sharon to let her know that the heater was fixed, he mentioned to Mia that Sharon happened to be in Kenosha, which happened to be the same place that Mia knew Rey was. And Mia assumes that Sharon and Rey are off having an affair. She has a meltdown. Arturo tries to reassure her, tries to console her, but ends up about a half-inch away from her lips somehow instead. How did that even happen? Here's the thing, like, I get this from Mia's angle. Mia is hungry for attention. She's hungry for affection. That's who she is, clearly. She also felt betrayed by Rey, but I don't get it at all from Arturo's angle. How can he be so committed to and so supportive of Abby and yet be so easily lured in by Mia's siren? Where and why did things get so tense between Devon and Ana? I do think that Ana had made some moves that overstepped on Devon's business and his authority to run that business the way he sees fit. But, I don't know, rather than encouraging Ana's ambition, this week Devon pretty much shut her down and fired her from LP. Fired her from the music portion of the business altogether. And for what? For remixing Fenn's song and presenting a revision to him to see if he might like it better? A lot of bosses might see that action as showing initiative. Might see that as out-of-the-box thinking that should be rewarded. Of course I was glad that he later admitted to Ana that he was just feeling kind of overwhelmed in that moment, and he has his own insecurities and issues that he's trying to deal with. He admitted that he overreacted, and he's not wrong for establishing his role as the owner of that business and for exercising his right to have final say, but he should never have let it come between he and his sister, not even a little bit. Ana was ready to move out. She was ready to leave town, and he stopped her. Thank goodness. He apologized to her, and he gave her a gift. It was very sweet. He encouraged her to stay, said, let's make this our home. I want you here. He reinforced to her that she was wanted, and that's all good. I just don't totally get where it came from in the first place. And in the future, for goodness sake, could he please just leave Fenn out of it? I mean, Fenn's an employee at the end of the day, and he's there stuck in the middle of their family drama and secrets. See, Fenn keeps encouraging Ana to reveal the truth to Devon that she was the one who wrote that big song that they're working on, but I don't think that's going to fix it. As a matter of fact, I worry that Devon is going to find out that Ana was the one who wrote that song, and it's just going to make him upset all over again that she lied to him. Who knew that Y&R chatters were hanging on Jill's every word? Sometimes love has an expiration date. That line was uttered by Jill talking about her relationship with Cain. So many people guessed that one, so I gotta take a deep breath here and give a big shout out to our weekly winners. There's 21 of you. Superplex, Anna, TB84, Heather, Joanne, Gary, Justin, Nancy, Juanita, Susan, Cece, Char, Colleen, and Tina Cole, Henry, Sandra, Tanya, Coral, Ambreen, Laura, and Diana. Holy cow. That has to be a record. I never know what lines people will pick up on or what lines they won't. It's just a guess. I just pick the lines that speak to me in a week. How about this one? This is the one that spoke to me this week, and I'm going to keep this as a personal mantra. Shut up and enjoy it. I just heard that line and I thought, you know, maybe I need to take a little bit of that for myself. Shut up and enjoy it. If you know who said that, go to yrchat.com to leave your guess. And if you get it right, get a shout out on next week's Y&R Chat. Okay, man, I got a lot of comments this week. Let's start out with Connor, who's commenting on the fact that it's prison week on Y&R. Connor says, I think it would have been cool if Y&R would do a real retrospective of what it's like behind bars by holding a conversation between Victor and Lily. I would love to see those two interact while living in prison. Yeah, man, I thought the same thing as far as, man, we're spending a lot of time behind bars this week. I think that, I don't know, I could be wrong, but are they both in Walworth? Oh my goodness, I think Lily might be in a women's prison, or maybe a women's portion of the prison. Are they both, like, because Lily had to be moved, so she's far away. Is that where Victor is too? Is that what everybody was assuming? Is it the same place? That's my question. But yeah, that would have been interesting to see them bump into each other, right? Oh, Soapy Llama says, I liked seeing Jack visiting Victor. We have been severely lacking scenes from the biggest Y&R power couple. They have so much history that even a simple sit-down chat gives you goosebumps. Agreed. I love that you called them a power couple. I mean, no kidding. Well, also weighing in about Nikki's confession to Nick, Soapy Llama says, I'm ecstatic that Nick knows. I've always thought that it was silly that none of them told Nick, who would want to protect everyone involved. He would never put his loved ones in danger, and he would provide a lot of help to them. This is going to make the storyline much more exciting. Well, I agree on the exciting part. Something had to happen. It could not just be more of the same. Some new information has to come out if they're not going to give us the information about who's behind these hauntings. Zuberplex says, now that Nick knows the truth, I think this signals the end of Phyllis and Nick. He will probably be quite angry when he realizes that Phyllis has been trying to implicate the wrong suspect, his father, even if that meant she was at the time saving his own mother's neck. I had the same thought, Zuperplex, that I bet, however it may happen, Nick finding out about this secret will somehow lead to the end of his relationship with Phyllis. Yep, bet you're right. Gary says Phyllis's performance at the memorial was explained in that she needed to step in because Nikki was about to go off the rails and confess. So Phyllis had to take charge. But did she have to take charge with that? Why did she purposely say all of those things in front of Reed? The whole point of the memorial was that it was all about Reed. I think everyone understood that, including Phyllis. Oh, Gary, there is no doubt that Phyllis understood that. Victoria stopped by Nick's house personally to convey that she was doing it for Reed. Phyllis should have just stayed home. But then I guess we wouldn't have anything to talk about. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest reason, though, why I'm irritated with Phyllis in all of this, because it just was so unnecessary at an event that was really supposed to be about this young man and his ability to honor what JT was to him. There was no way that Reed was ever going to be able to come back and combat that revelation of Phyllis's. It just did nothing but destroy. And it's not as if it wasn't the only option, or if it was the only option. Sandra says, I'll be very disappointed if Nick doesn't stop to think about continuing his relationship with Phyllis. Once Nick gets all the pieces to the puzzle regarding JT's death and Phyllis's part in the cover-up, coercing the other women to keep quiet, I think Nick will send her packing. I think so too. Zoberplex also commenting on the fact that Phyllis had the revelation at the memorial says, why was that such a big deal? If I recall, Victor was the first person to reveal Victoria's abuse during his TV interview with Hillary. Is that true? I'm trying to remember. I think I do remember Victor saying that JT was a bully and maybe an abuser. Did he specifically say this man abused my daughter? Maybe somebody can do a little flashback and remind us of that. I didn't think it was public knowledge. Laura says, Phyllis is such a great character. So often in life, you want to tell people what you really think of them, but you don't because it's not nice and wouldn't change anybody's behavior anyway. At least we get to watch it on TV. Phyllis's personality pivots storylines. Yes, Laura, that is the key takeaway. That is the argument that works best in contrast to my own that we all have to remember. Phyllis's personality pivots storylines. And in that way, thank you, Phyllis, because at least it created some drama and it ended up creating some movement on the story in that Nick felt he had to take Nikki home, and then we at least got someone new learning this secret. Connor says, let's call a spade here. The entire Phyllis versus Victoria scene was epic, and I have a theory as to why they went head to head. Yes, it's no secret that Phyllis hates Victor for what he did to her and Jack, but that argument between them wasn't just about Victor. Oh, no, no, no. That argument was pure jealousy from Phyllis's end due to Victoria and Billy getting close again. Yeah, and you know, Phyllis can't really complain. She didn't want Billy when he asked her to get back together. I can understand why she would be questioning the speed of Billy and Victoria's relationship, but don't pretend it's because you're worried about Victoria or you're worried about Billy. I mean, I think it is pretty clear what Phyllis's interest in that relationship is, but I just think she needs to get over it and move on. Soapy Llama, though, says, it is wholly unfair of Victoria to expect any sympathy from Phyllis after Victor hired a guy to impersonate Jack and rape Phyllis for months. Then he only got a couple months in prison. As a victim of abuse, you'd think that Victoria would be more understanding, no? Oh, that's true. I think Y&R needs to reinforce that. Phyllis talked about her feelings toward Victor, but I think that Y&R should have really driven your point home, Soapy Llama, because that really would have brought some depth to why Phyllis was reacting the way that she was. And of course, you know, we all kind of know, well, if you've been watching a while, you kind of know that history, but I think it would have helped to bring that back up, the Marco situation. For anyone, I suppose, who wasn't watching then, Victor hired a double to impersonate Jack. He had the real Jack kidnapped, and he put a double in his place. And at that time, Phyllis was married to Jack, so she was going through the motions of her life, being married to and sleeping with a man who wasn't Jack. And Victor did ultimately get convicted as the result of all that, but he didn't serve a very long prison sentence, and that certainly shouldn't overshadow the abuse that did happen to Phyllis. Absolutely, absolutely. My only thought to add to that is that none of that's Victoria's fault, you know? I mean, it was Victor. I can understand Phyllis having this reaction toward Victor, but I don't quite know why it had to extend to Victoria. Other than drama, which is no problem here. Diana says, the scene with Reed giving his memorial speech about his dad had me in tears. It was so moving. Tristan Lake LeBeau's acting was superb and very believable. It was very heartfelt. He should definitely win an award after watching that scene. It gave the actor a chance to showcase his talent. I was pleasantly surprised he gave us so much raw emotion. I know, just the way he really looked devastated. He did. I mean, just when he started breaking down and sobbing, I actually watched that scene twice because I just felt so much for Reed, and I do think that's part of the thing that launched me into my Phyllis tirade because I was just really feeling for this kid. Young man, and maybe he will come out stronger on the other end of this. Jamie says, I was happy to see the focus of Victoria's story get back to the root issue, which was domestic violence and abuse. I'm wondering, Jamie says, if this is the new writing team. Well, you know, I agree 100% about bringing that story full circle. I don't know that we would be in territory for the new writing team though yet. I didn't tune into the credits yet. I was assuming that it was still maybe a couple weeks down the road. I think so. I think Y&R's filming 3 weeks in advance. So if I had to guess, I would say it'll be a couple more weeks before we get to the new dudes. But my hopes are up for them. And, you know, in a way, maybe that was Mal's way of bringing that story full circle. Maybe at this point, if Mal is still writing, he's realizing that some of his stories have been botched and that he needed to bring them back around. Maybe that was his intention. Don't know. T. Nicole says, seeing Billy's facial reactions, realizing what Victoria went through, just showed me how much this hurt him. When Victoria told Billy how scared she was and that it felt like she was being tossed around like a doll, and seeing that single teardrop down Billy's cheek made me see how much this broke his heart. And I loved it when he told her that he was proud of her. Ugh, Jason Thompson is so good. I really did connect in with him too in those scenes. I think that Victoria opening up to him about her domestic abuse does have some redeeming qualities on his character as well. What a great actor he is. Colleen says, after everything Billy's been through, with losing Delia, Phyllis's cheating, falling back into gambling, and Summer's drama, I want to see him and Victoria and their kids as a happy family. Victoria, too, has struggled with an abusive relationship, raising a teenager and being a successful businesswoman. I'm definitely team Billy and Victoria, plus I'm looking forward to seeing how Lily and Cain adjust their marriage and get to know each other again when Lily gets out of prison. I just don't see what the point of Crystal Khalil going off on recurring is if we're only going to see her in prison. I mean, part of me would just rather them break up the couple and let Cain move on. The whole Cain and Lily thing has a band-aid on it, and it's not going to work for very much longer. Tanya says, I know a lot of people want Victoria and Billy together, but to be honest, I don't. Yes, I love their moments together, and yet I'm just tired of seeing them get back together, then break up, then get back together and break up. I want something fresh and new. Yeah, I have to admit, that's kind of how I feel too. Not that there's not a dynamic there, not that there's not a lot that they can share together there. It's just sort of like, meh, Billy and Victoria together again, for me anyway, but you know, I can always be won over, always. Oh, Justin had a really great analysis of Victoria's relationships with men. You should read it if you go to the website. I think it was I actually think maybe it was on the poll question thread. But just to kind of summarize here, Justin says, the reason that Victoria has such a dark history with men is because of her father. It is a fact to women to an extent that are drawn to men like their father. Victoria saw Victor mistreat women, and she has had her own dark issues with Victor. Victoria cannot stay in a stable, healthy relationship because she never saw that as an example from her father. Having Victoria examine her life through her relationship with Victor would be a direction I would like to see. Me too, because that was touched on lightly when Victoria was revealing things through Margarita Night. There was a moment as Victoria was first telling Nikki about her abuse where Nikki said she felt very guilty that Victoria didn't have a great example in her parents' relationship. But you really do make a good point that it would be such a compelling story to really let Victoria work through these daddy issues that we know she has, that everyone everyone knows she has, and to connect that into her relationship with men. I think you're better, though, than these current writers. I don't know if we're going to get that, but man, that would be juicy. Maybe after Victor's dead. Then they can really dig into that, really besmirch him. T. Nicole asks, did Mac have a thing for Billy? I don't know too much about the character, so I'm not sure if she and Billy have a history. It sure seemed that she was disappointed that he was getting so close to Victoria at the memorial service. Yes, they certainly did have a history, T. Nicole. And Soapy Llama actually responded with a little summary here that's probably better than mine, so I'll just read that. Soapy Llama says, well, when Billy and Mac were teenagers, they were prom queen and king. They got married briefly, but had it quickly annulled after Catherine and Jill burst in to say that they were cousins. They turned out not to be cousins. Years later, Billy cheated on Chloe with Mac after she came back to town. Billy and Mac were together for a while until she wanted to be a surrogate for Lily and Cain, prompting them to break up. Ooh, that is refreshing some memory for me that I had completely lost. I remember Billy and Mac mostly as teenagers. They were part of the whole Glow by Jabot gang right there alongside JT. I really liked them. They were a very popular teen couple on the show. I liked the original Billy very much, David Tom, and I liked the original Mac, Ashley Bashonium, or I'm not sure exactly how to say her last name, but I liked her. So yes, the characters became played by different people over the years, and they did get briefly married. Yeah, I think Y&R chose the Catherine and Jill being mother-daughter story over Billy and Mac, but it was quite dramatic when they found out they were in love, getting married, and found out that they were related. But Y&R kind of erased that part later on by not making Jill and Catherine mother-daughter. So much water has gone under that bridge, so thank you also for asking the question, T. Nicole, and for giving us a good answer, Soapy Llama. Oh, about that poll question, Cain and Victoria, hot or horribly wrong? T. Nicole says, I voted horribly wrong. Even if Cain is lonely from missing Lily and hungover, did he kiss Victoria because she just happened to be any single woman at his door? Lily just forgave him for sleeping with Juliet, and now he's kissing someone else while she's in prison? A year apart is long and difficult, but if you truly love your wife like Cain says he does, then it's not impossible to stay faithful. Well, hell no, it's not impossible to stay faithful. I agree. It's crappy. There's not really a good excuse for the kiss, and I still think it came out of nowhere. Kathy says Cain and Victoria are like the old cliche, oil and water. They just do not mix. Gads. Shelley says, although I'm not convinced the characters would ultimately be a good pair, nor am I thrilled with the timing of the kiss. The circumstances surrounding it, the kiss itself was quite hot. Yeah, I know. That's my problem with it too. It's like, well, it was kind of happened in a bad way, but I'm not inherently opposed to these two hooking up if it was the right circumstances. Diana says, Cain and Victoria all the way. I am very tired of Lily and Cain. We need to switch up the partners to spice things up. It could be a very interesting storyline. Lily could come out of prison hardcore and try to get revenge on Victoria for stealing her man. That's a good one. Diana says, I wish the kiss didn't happen after an argument, as it didn't seem genuine. I think it would have been much better and believable if the characters of Lily and Cain were first hurling insults at each other, but then the writers had Cain say a compliment to Victoria, such as, you're beautiful when you're angry, before they kissed. That scene reminded me a lot of Sam and Diane from Cheers, as they would argue and then kiss. Perhaps Y&R was influenced by their characters. others. I like this comment, Diana, because all it would have taken is one line, just like you said, Cain saying, "You're beautiful when you're angry," and then boom. And I also love the Sam and Diane reference from Cheers. That's an oldie but goodie and very, very popular storyline at the time. I mean, I think part of the reason why the Sam and Diane thing worked was because you got a sense all along that these are two people who don't get along. They're fundamentally very different, and yet they're oddly and wildly attracted to one another. So when they do come together, it is like electric. I just didn't get the sense all along that Cain and Victoria have been pining for each other. I mean, I got absolutely no hint of that, so there was no build-up, and so it was hard for me to really explode with it. Oh, Daisy weighing in about another little bit of an illicit almost kiss. Daisy says, "Hasn't Mia ever heard of a space heater?" Whenever Mia is close to Arturo, I wonder if she still loves him and married Rey just to make him jealous. But when that didn't work, she stayed with Rey to be near Arturo. Oh, can you imagine marrying a guy just to make another guy jealous? But that's the kind of thing probably that Mia would do. Daisy also says about Rey, Rey lied, and a mission is still a lie. It's interesting how Rey acted like Mia was the problem in their marriage, when it's possible it's him. I think Mia is right. He doesn't love her. I feel bad for her when she really did try. What I want to know is, though, why would Rey say he wants to work things out, but at the same time flirts with Sharon? Is Rey stringing Mia along to punish her for cheating on him? I mean, that's sort of the vibe I'm starting to get too. Like, Mia really wants to be with Arturo, and that Rey, I don't know, I think Rey doesn't want to be that guy and leave his wife, but maybe the Sharon flirting thing is a little bit of what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It could be revenge driven. Laura says, "I can't wait to hear the name of our new restaurant. I like Abby's Smack and Chew." Ooh. Abby's Smack and Chew. Well, wouldn't it technically then be Abby and Devon's Smack and Chew? Smack and Chew. I like Smack and Chew. What are some other potential names? I mean, I'm assuming it's not going to be La Vida Lola, or is it? Maybe it is. We need to get some good other names going on, though. Feel free to contribute some of those this week if Smack and Chew is not your style. Shelly says, "I'm pretty sure Lola is attempting to eat the co-stars she kisses. I cannot remember the last time I've seen a soap opera character kiss with such an open mouth." Okay, I did notice that, but I wasn't going to be the first one to say it. She has very beautiful lips. Perhaps the actress is just trying to make sure that they are appropriately highlighted. And also ending on another comment of Shelly's here, is anyone else thinking, dang, why did Devon and Ana have to be related? Their chemistry is great. They play off of one another really nicely, and it's too bad that they are brother and sister. Oh well, next up for Devon, Abby, it may seem. Yes, Shelly. That may be the truth. Arturo's little temptation may be Devon and Abby's opportunity. Okay, all right, okay. It's time for me to get going. But as always, I love getting your comments at yrchat.com. So let me know what you think. Come back next week. I'll let you know what I think. And it's just one big happy family. Everyone have a good one. I love ya.